Most Americans remember a time when beer brands were as iconic as the commercials that advertised them, but not all of them survived. From regional brews to nationwide favorites, some famous beers have quietly disappeared from store shelves. Today, we're diving into 20 famous beers from the past that no longer exist. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to Those Wonder Years and leave a comment to tell us which of these classic beers you'd bring back if you could. Let's take a look back at the beers that once defined America's love for a cold one. Ballantine India Pale Ale.
Stock up on plenty of Valentine. Get a smile every time.
Did you know that one of America's first IPAs was brewed way back in the 1800s? Yep, before IPAs became the darling of the craft beer world, Ballantine India Pale Ale was already pushing the limits of what beer could be. This wasn't your typical easy drinking lager. Ballantine was bold, complex, and aged in oak barrels. Imagine a beer with layers of earthy pine, citrusy hops, and a smooth oak finish. But here's the twist. Unlike today's IPAs, Ballantine was crafted in an era that didn't even have a word for craft beer. It stood out, sure, but perhaps it was just a bit ahead of its time. So what happened? As lighter, simpler beers gained popularity, Ballantine IPA quietly faded away. Yet for those who were lucky enough to try it, it wasn't just a drink, it was an experience. This iconic brew was truly America's first taste of IPA. Would it still be a favorite if it made a comeback today? We'd like to think so. Falstaff beer.
There's light-hearted living in light-hearted Falstaff beer.
Remember a time when grabbing a Falstaff was like sharing a drink with an old friend? This wasn't just any beer. Falstaff was the beer. Its classic lager had a refreshing taste that could turn any ordinary evening into a memorable one. Falstaff was even named after Shakespeare's legendary character, Sir John Falstaff. Bold, fun, and just a little bit rowdy. This beer didn't just live on store shelves. It showed up in Hollywood films, sporting events, and countless family gatherings. So what went wrong? Despite its beloved status, the world of beer evolved, and with increased competition and shifting tastes, Falstaff started to fade from the limelight. Now the red and gold label has become a relic of a different era, but for those who remember it, Falstaff isn't just a beer, it's a time capsule, a taste of simpler, happier times. Wouldn't it be something to crack open a cold Falstaff one more time? Schaefer beer.
Because Schaefer's Croissant, brewed twice the old world way since 1842 to give it a consistently fresh.
What made Schaefer beer the one beer to have when you're having more than one? That catchy slogan alone tells you a lot about Schaefer. This wasn't a beer for high society. Schaefer was for ball games, backyard barbecues, and hanging out with friends. Founded in New York, it quickly became the go-to choice for anyone looking for a dependable, easy drinking beer. Schaefer didn't just sell beer, it sold moments of relaxation and fun. Ever watched a baseball game with a cold one in hand? Chances are, it was a Schaefer. But as beer brands started flooding the market, Schaefer struggled to keep its edge. Though it's gone now, it's far from forgotten. For those who had their first beer moment with a Schaefer, it holds a special place in memory, a reminder of the joy of unwinding with something simple and good. Could a beer like Schaefer make a comeback? If nostalgia has a say, the answer just might be yes. Piels beer.
To the brothers Piels, others kneel.
Well, that doesn't say anything about
How did a couple of cartoon brothers make Piels beer one of the most memorable brands on the East Coast? Well, meet Bert and Harry Piel, the animated duo who made beer commercials fun before fun ads were even a thing. Piels wasn't just a beer, it was a brand with a sense of humor. Mel Blanc, the voice of Bugs Bunny, brought the Piel brothers to life, giving the brand a personality that fans loved. And the beer? Refreshing and easygoing, just like the ads. In an era when marketing was mostly serious, Piels didn't take itself too seriously, and that approach worked. Unfortunately, the rise of national beer brands spelled trouble for Piels, and by the 70s, it had disappeared from shelves. But ask anyone who remembers, and they'll tell you, Piels wasn't just about taste, it was an experience, a bit of comic relief in every bottle. Imagine if Piels and its cartoon brothers were still around today. Wouldn't that be something? Meister Brau.
I like double overtime, smoky poker games, and Meister Brau. Nothing's richer, nothing smoother, and guys like me don't need anything.
Ever wondered how light beer got its start? It all began with a little brand called Meister Brau. Known in the 60s as a reliable budget beer, Meister Brau had a loyal following among drinkers looking for quality without the high price tag. But here's the kicker. In the early 70s, Miller Brewing Company bought the rights to Meister Brau's light version, eventually transforming it into Miller Lite. That's right, this affordable, no-frills beer laid the groundwork for the entire light beer movement. Meister Brau may be gone, but its legacy lives on in every can of of light beer enjoyed at tailgates, parties, and gatherings. For those who remember it, Meister Brau was more than just a cheap beer. It was a trendsetter, quietly sparking a revolution that changed the way people drank beer. Imagine bringing back the original Meister Brau. Who wouldn't want to try a taste of the beer that started it all? Old Frothingslosh.
So light. Oh my gosh, it's Frothingslosh.
Ever heard of a pale, stale ale with the foam on the bottom? That was Old Frothingslosh, a beer that leaned into humor so hard it practically became a parody of itself. This quirky beer, originally produced by Pittsburgh Brewing Company as a gag, was known for its whimsical advertising and comically strange label. A woman named Fatima Yekberg proudly posed as the Miss Old Frothingslosh winner. But here's the twist. The beer actually became a cult favorite. What started as a holiday joke turned into a full-fledged product due to its popularity, with people buying it for the laughs as much as the drink. The beer itself wasn't anything groundbreaking, but it was lighthearted and drinkable, qualities that seemed to resonate. Old Frothingslosh was more than a beer. It was a conversation starter, a novelty that didn't take itself too seriously. Sadly, its run eventually came to an end, but Old Frothingslosh left an indelible mark on the industry as the beer that dared to be different. Would people still buy a beer for the joke today? With Old Frothingslosh, that answer was always a resounding yes. Blatz beer.
Today's Blatz. Taste the heritage of Milwaukee.
Blatz was Milwaukee through and through. Founded in the 1850s, Blatz quickly earned its place in beer history as one of America's first large-scale breweries. If you've ever heard the phrase Milwaukee's best, you can bet Blatz was a big part of why that slogan stuck around. This wasn't just a local brew. Blatz grew into a national powerhouse with a lager that was smooth, dependable, and as familiar as the Great Lakes to Midwesterners. Blatz had a loyal fan base, especially in the Midwest, where it became synonymous with good times and gatherings. But in the 1950s, after multiple mergers and changes in ownership, Blatz began to lose ground to emerging brands. Eventually, it faded out, but it still holds a special place in the hearts of those who remember grabbing a cold Blatz at a hometown bar. Ask any Milwaukee native, and they'll tell you, Blatz was more than just a beer, it was a point of pride. Bringing Blatz back would feel like reviving a piece of Milwaukee's soul. Who wouldn't want to taste that? Knickerbocker beer. New Yorkers know that Knickerbocker beer wasn't just any beer, it was their beer. Named after Washington Irving's famous character Diedrich Knickerbocker, this beer paid homage to the city's Dutch roots. Brewed by the Jacob Ruppert Brewery, the same company that once owned the New York Yankees, Knickerbocker was as much a part of the city as Central Park or the Empire State Building. Its ads celebrated New York life, capturing scenes of city dwellers unwinding with a cold knicker after a long day. It was the kind of beer you'd picture at a 1940s jazz club or a Yankees game. But as the brewing industry consolidated, Knickerbocker found itself squeezed out by bigger brands, disappearing by the late 60s. Still, it remains an iconic part of New York's history. Imagine if Knickerbocker made a comeback. New Yorkers old and new could get a taste of the city's past. It's more than nostalgia. It's a slice of New York heritage in a bottle. Red, white, and blue beer. Ever wondered what a patriotic beer would taste like? Red, white, and blue was the answer. Popular during the 1970s and 80s, this budget-friendly beer was marketed with a strong American pride vibe. The can was unmistakable, with stars, stripes, and the colors of the US flag, making it a hit during holidays like the 4th of July and Memorial Day. It wasn't just the branding that stood out. Red, white, and blue was known for being cheap and drinkable, making it a go-to for barbecues, block parties, and casual gatherings. In a way, it was the beer for the everyday American, providing a sense of pride at an affordable price. But as the market became crowded, red, white, and blue couldn't keep up, eventually disappearing from shelves. For those who remember, cracking open a red, white, and blue was like a small celebration of America itself. Would a patriotic brand like this thrive in today's world? With its red, white, and blue legacy, it's hard not to think it might. Wiedemann beer.
That Wiedemann, that's one fine beer.
Wiedemann beer might not ring bells for everyone, but if you were in the Midwest, especially Kentucky or Ohio, it was a household name. Founded in 1870, Wiedemann became a staple in working-class neighborhoods known for its smooth, easy-drinking taste. It had a reputation as a dependable, straightforward beer that didn't break the bank, perfect for unwinding after a hard day's work. Wiedemann was as reliable as an old friend, and its ads were filled with hometown pride. Locals loved it because it wasn't trying to be anything fancy. It was honest beer for honest honest people. Despite its loyal fan base, Wiedemann struggled against the rise of national brands and eventually shut down in the late 1980s. But for those who remember, Wiedemann is a reminder of a time when local beers represented the spirit of the community. Imagine finding a can of Wiedemann today, a sip of history, bringing back memories of the good old days in the Midwest. Valentine beer? Valentine beer might not be a familiar name to everyone, but in the early to mid 20th century, it was a top choice for Americans looking for a smooth, well-crafted beer. Brewed in Newark, New Jersey, Valentine was known for its clean, crisp flavor that seemed to appeal to everyone. Its brand was all about quality, and it even gained a reputation for a bit of class. No small feat in the competitive beer market. Valentine's ads highlighted its distinctive taste and high quality, aiming to elevate it above typical beers of the era. Many remember its elegant V logo and the sense of tradition that came with each bottle. However, the rapid consolidation of breweries in the 1970s led to Valentine's decline as larger brands took over. By the time it disappeared, Valentine had left a legacy of a beer that was more than just a drink. It was a symbol of craftsmanship. For those who miss it, Valentine beer feels like the one that got away, a reminder of a time when brewers focused on quality and taste. Wouldn't it be amazing to try that perfect V taste once again? National Premium.
Time and skill. Compare National Premium against any other beer in the world.
If you were from Maryland, especially Baltimore, chances are you knew National Premium. It was a local treasure, a true Maryland beer that held a special place in people's hearts. Originally brewed by the National Brewing Company, National Premium was the upscale version of National Bohemian, or Natty Bo. While Natty Bo became the go-to for everyday occasions, National Premium was seen as the beer for special moments, a step up with a richer flavor profile. Its association with Maryland was strong, with the company frequently sponsoring local sports teams and events. But as bigger companies began to dominate the market, National Premium found it harder to compete, and by the late 20th century, it disappeared. Today, National Premium represents a slice of Maryland history, a taste of local pride that can't be easily replaced. Ask any Marylander and they'll tell you, National Premium wasn't just a beer, it was a hometown icon. Imagine finding it on tap again at a Baltimore bar. Now that would be something special. Burger beer.
Burger, the best tasting beer you can find. You never had it so smooth.
Burger beer wasn't just a drink in Cincinnati, it was a piece of local history. Founded in 1883, this hometown favorite became known for its smooth, mellow flavor, a perfect pairing with the city's bustling social scene. Burger beer wasn't trying to be fancy, it was beer for the people, made with straightforward ingredients and a commitment to quality. Burger beer was so beloved that it even survived Prohibition, coming back strong as soon as the ban was lifted. For many Cincinnatians, burger beer was the go-to for ball games, backyard barbecues, and everyday celebrations. It represented local pride and brought people together, a true community beer. Unfortunately, as larger breweries took over, burger beer found it harder to stay afloat, eventually fading from store shelves. But ask any Cincinnati native and they'll tell you, burger beer wasn't just another beer, it was a part of the city. Would it still resonate today? For anyone with a love for Cincinnati history, the answer is an easy yes. Hudepohl beer.
So gold and good, they say. Hudepohl beer is.
Hudepohl beer and Cincinnati go hand in hand. If you grew up around Cincinnati, Hudepohl was more than just a beer. It was a family tradition. Founded in 1885, Hudepohl quickly became a staple in the region, loved for its rich, full-bodied flavor that stood out from the lighter beers of its time. Hudepohl wasn't just a beer, it was an experience, often paired with sports events, especially the Cincinnati Reds games, where the Hudepohl cheer became famous. Even during Prohibition, Hudepohl survived by producing soda and malt products, waiting for the day it could bring its beloved beer back. Though it held its own for many years, the industry consolidation of the late 20th century made it tough for Hudepohl to stay competitive, and eventually it faded away. Today, Hudepohl is a part of Cincinnati's beer lore, a reminder of when local brews were woven into the fabric of the city. For Cincinnatians, seeing Hudepohl back on shelves would be like finding a lost treasure, a taste of their city's spirited history. Olympia beer.
You owe yourself the best beer in the land.
Olympia. Beer doesn't get any better.
It's the water. Olympia beer's famous slogan reminded drinkers of the pure artesian water used to brew this Pacific Northwest favorite. Founded in 1896 in Tumwater, Washington, Olympia quickly grew into a regional powerhouse. Loved for its smooth, crisp taste, Olympia's ads celebrated the natural beauty of the Northwest, playing up its local roots and commitment to quality. For many, Olympia wasn't just a drink, it was a part of the West Coast lifestyle. As much a staple as coffee is today, the brand became widely popular, reaching peak sales in the 1970s. However, as the market consolidated and competitors moved in, Olympia couldn't keep its foothold, eventually closing its original brewery. Though the Olympia brand survived in various forms for a while, it gradually lost its iconic status. For those who remember, Olympia represents a simpler time when a cold beer could evoke a sense of place, like tasting the essence of the Northwest. Would Olympia still resonate with today's crowd? For anyone who values tradition, the answer is a resounding yes. Ham's Beer.
Tap and Regular is brewed natural, nothing artificial. The more beer you're gonna have, the more reason to make it Ham.
Ham's Beer had something no other beer did, an iconic mascot, the Ham's Bear. This playful cartoon bear danced its way into the hearts of drinkers everywhere, and its catchy jingle, "From the land of sky blue waters," was hard to forget. Founded in 1865 in St. Paul, Minnesota, Ham's quickly grew from a local favorite to a national treasure. Its smooth, easy-drinking lager appealed to a wide audience, making it perfect for summer cookouts or cheering on your favorite sports team. The bear, with its happy-go-lucky vibe, represented everything Ham's stood for: simplicity, joy, and relaxation. By the 1970s, Ham's had expanded significantly, but increased competition and changing tastes led to a decline. Today, Ham's isn't the powerhouse it once was, but ask anyone who remembers and they'll tell you that a cold Ham's with its nostalgic bear was more than just a drink. It was a moment of happiness. Could the Ham's Bear make a comeback? For many fans, that bear still holds a special place in their hearts, a symbol of simpler, carefree days. Jack's Beer.
Jack's Beer, premium brewed from...
Jack's Beer was a Southern staple, especially popular in New Orleans. Founded in the early 1900s, Jack's quickly became known for its smooth, full-flavored beer that went down easy on hot Louisiana days. Named after Jacksonville, Florida, where it was originally brewed, Jack's eventually moved its production to New Orleans, where it became an iconic part of the local culture. The beer was refreshing, affordable, and a common sight in the city's many bars and jazz clubs. Jack's Beer's old brewery building is still a landmark in New Orleans, a symbol of the city's rich brewing history. Although it ceased production in the 1970s, Jack's Beer remains a legend in New Orleans lore, remembered by locals who see it as part of the city's unique identity. For New Orleanians, Jack's wasn't just beer, it was a celebration of their culture. If Jack's made a return, there's no doubt it would be welcomed with open arms, ready to toast to the city's storied past. Ortlieb's Beer. Ortlieb's Beer was a Philadelphia favorite with a history stretching back to the 1800s. This brewery, started by German immigrants, became a cornerstone of the Philadelphia beer scene. Known for its quality and consistency, Ortlieb's offered a straightforward, classic lager that locals loved. It was the kind of beer you'd find at family gatherings, local bars, and community events. Ortlieb's was a drink for the people, an affordable and reliable option that everyone could enjoy. But as larger breweries began to take over, Ortlieb's found it hard to compete on a national scale, and it eventually closed its doors. For Philadelphians, Ortlieb's wasn't just beer. It was a piece of their heritage, tied to generations of shared experiences and memories. Today, the Ortlieb's name is a symbol of Philly pride, a reminder of a time when local breweries brought neighborhoods together. A comeback of Ortlieb's would mean a lot to those who remember it, rekindling a taste of Philadelphia's brewing history. Schlitz.
We'd like to take away their Schlitz and have them try our beer.
You want to take away their Schlitz?
The beer that made Milwaukee famous. Schlitz wasn't just a slogan, it was a fact. Founded in 1849, Schlitz quickly grew into one of America's top-selling beers, known for its rich, satisfying taste. During its peak in the 1950s and 60s, Schlitz was everywhere, from ball games to backyard parties. The brand invested heavily in marketing, making it a household name across the country. Schlitz was a beer with a reputation. If you drank it, you were drinking the best Milwaukee had to offer. However, in the 1970s, a recipe change in an attempt to cut costs backfired, leading to a drop in quality and a mass exodus of loyal fans. Schlitz tried to recover, but it was too late. The damage had been done. Though it eventually officially disappeared, Schlitz is still remembered by many as the beer that once ruled the American market. For those who recall its glory days, Schlitz represents a lost era of beer greatness. Could it find new life in today's craft scene? With a story like that, it just might. Lucky Lager.
Isn't that something? Now Lucky opens without an opener.
Lucky Lager had something unique. Rebus puzzles under the bottle caps. Every cap contained a little brain teaser, challenging drinkers to solve it as they sipped. Founded in California in the 1930s, Lucky Lager became a beloved West Coast brand, known for its crisp, straightforward taste and affordable price. Lucky Lager wasn't trying to be fancy. It was for people who wanted a good beer in a good time. The Rebus puzzles became iconic, making each bottle a little more fun. For decades, Lucky Lager was a go-to for people across the West Coast, and even after its decline, its loyal fans have held on to fond memories. Eventually, competition from larger breweries led to Lucky Lager's decline, and it vanished from shelves. But those bottle cap puzzles left a lasting impression, and for many, Lucky Lager is remembered as the beer that brought a bit of fun to every drink. Imagine bringing back those puzzles today. Who wouldn't want to crack open a cold Lucky Lager and give it a try? These beers may no longer be on tap, but their stories remind us of good times, memorable flavors, and the joy of sharing a cold one. Just because they've faded doesn't mean they're forgotten, but before you go, don't forget to subscribe to Those Wonder Years and tell us in the comments, which of these classic beers would you bring back for one last toast?